so much, Brother Watson. We appreciate that. You know, what you're really talking about, a portion of what you're talking about is how, trauma affects us, right? Nefer was talking about all of these unconscious messages in terms of knowing ourselves and where we could potentially get them from. And oftentimes those will trip us up and we will want to escape into, risky behavior, right? To get, just to get away. So we end up tripping over into things like addiction, if you will, all to escape whatever the pain of the moment is. And so that's why also we're so happy to have, our next panelist, Mr. Phil Harris, with us, who can really talk to us about how to survive trauma. Just a little bit about him. He's a fashion designer and jewelry artist, and Mr. Phil Harris brings a realistic day-to-day insight to the panel with real examples of issues that faces individuals in our community from a mental health standpoint. His story makes us aware of the results of bullying, abuse, disrespect, and understanding and misrepresentations in life. So thank you, Mr. Harris, for being with us and being so willing to share your story with us.
Well, thank you guys. I truly appreciate it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
can.
Very loud.
Yeah. I truly appreciate this moment. And Bishop, I must say to you, your prayer really helped me the other day, and I truly appreciate that. As I was looking at you guys, there was a protest that went right through my street. I'm on 46th and 8th Avenue. And it was thousands and thousands of people, I do believe. But my point is that they're screaming. These young people are screaming. They did the same thing that I did in 2003. Mm-hmm. I was screaming. I screamed and I had to learn how to scream because I went through the court system. I had to go to court 77 times. I was in court for 14 years of my life, 2003, probably to 2016. And, I tried to commit suicide in 2003 alone, 15 times. And in the midst of all of that, my stepfather shot my mother. So I had to learn how to scream. I had to learn how to first forgive. I had to forgive my partner for what he did to me when I came to New York to work for Phyllis Hyman. We opened up a bakery in 2003. He was Caucasian and I was Black. So he got everything. He got my home, he got my dog, he got the business, he got everything. And reason that he was able to get it because he had all the support. I didn't have any support. Now I'm going to be honest with you. I'm real. This is real for me. I've been trying to do this for a long time. And I'm just going to be a little raw. I am illiterate. I dropped out of school at the 11th grade, and the reason because when I was in the 5th grade, my eyes truly opened up to what was going on in my life, and I realized that I realized afraid. I realized when I went to school, I was being bullied. When I come home, I was being bullied. My daddy was being bullied because I was gay. So I had to learn how to fight. And when I went through that 14-year court, situation, that taught me a whole lot. In 2003, like I said, alone, I tried to take my life for 15 times. And I found a doctor. I found a psychiatrist. And at the time I was living on the streets because I came down with full-blown AIDS. And I have no problem talking about these things because I truly know who brought me out of this situation. And I know that it was the Lord. I know because I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. But as I was praying, I was screaming. As I was praying, I was angry. So I had to learn how to connect with mental illness because I was in probably every mental institution in New York City. Every time I looked up, I was in a mental institution because I was trying to take my life. I was tired, and sometimes, Phyllis Hyman, I was working with her. She took her life, but I was just tired, and I just had to learn how to be tired. And that's what I did. I learned how to be tired. And through all of that, to make a long story short, because I have a long story, but through all of that, I found myself. Through all of that, I was learned how to be real with me. Mm-hmm. Through all of that, I can share this type of story. Through all of that, I don't care if you like me or not. You understand what I'm saying? Because I have learned to love me. I realized as a kid, the bullies were beating me because I was so good at what I did. I had a beautiful voice. I used to sing. We used to open up for the Shy-Lights. I had a beautiful voice. I used to skate very well. I was a great skater. And, I realized that these bullies, they didn't like me. We lived in the projects. They didn't like me. So I was getting beat up, trying to go to school, beat up, trying to come home from school. I felt like I didn't have no more allies. So I just allowed them to beat me up because my mom, she was not a fighter. My brother wasn't a fighter. My sister wasn't a fighter. So I had to do all of this on my own. And then my daddy was beating me. And then I realized why he was beating me, because he had another woman in my mother's bed and he was beating my mother. So I had to understand, Mommy, why are you crying? Mommy, why are you bloody? But then through all of that, I would have back to school. So at some point I said, you know what? I can't do it anymore. I had to just drop out of school because I didn't understand why they pushed me through. When I was in the 5th grade, I was very smart. But when I realized that my mother was getting beat up and other women was in my mother's bed, one day I drew a knife at my father and I said, you know what, if you hit my mother again, I will kill you. I had the knife in his navel and I would have killed him. But my stepfather, he shot him. But I have learned how to forgive. And I think it's a wonderful thing when you know that you have forgiven, because you can tell this type of story with no anger. I'm not angry. I forgave him. I forgave my stepfather. Most importantly, I've forgiven myself. So I look at the pandemic, it's amazing that we don't know what our purpose is. And this young man that passed away, this was his purpose and he didn't know it. And look what he did, because none of us knew who he was. None of us knew who he was, but we know who he is now. You know what he is now. And the reason why we know, because these kids are screaming. I was screaming. And if they can do it, if I can do it, they can do it. So I just want to thank you guys, because like I said, I've been telling my story for a long, long time. And I still suffer with depression every single day of my life. I still suffer with illiteracy every single day of my life. And these challenges, they're not easy. It's not easy to tell someone that you have all this going on. But you know what? I've learned to love me. So now I know how to love you. And I just want to encourage the young people to keep doing what you're doing, because sometimes we have to scream. Even though our voices may be soft, we have to scream, but we have to learn how to scream. And that's what I have did. I've learned how. And I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful that I didn't do drugs, that I didn't do alcohol, that I didn't have sex. Because I could have did all of that. But I just stopped right there at suicide. I said, I'm going to just go ahead and get over this. But somebody pulled me out. Somebody pulled me out, and it was that voice. And it's all about that voice. And sometimes we just have to learn how to sit down. And I truly have learned how to sit down. And I don't mean sit down. I mean change the situation, change the way I look at the situation. So I'm just so grateful and I'm just so thankful. And I must say this, Al Sharpton, he touched me. But I tell you what really touched me, when he had us to stand up, and I stood up. I stood up, and all of that I saw in him, I saw it. I seen in myself. It was a moment that we will never, ever forget. Because 9 minutes, when you think about it, that's a long, long time. Mm-hmm. That's a long time. So I'm just so grateful and thankful for you guys. And, I say, may God continue to bless us all. And I ask you guys to keep me in your prayers, because this is what this is all about. This is how God speaks to you. You all about God, and I truly believe that. So I just want to thank you. Thank you.
It's something. I'm glad you mentioned it. I just want to say something to you. I taught for about 42 years, and I dealt with students with what I call special need. They call special ed student. And you said something about yourself. You said when I was in the 5th grade, I was smart.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, you are.
Okay, that means that you're not. You could stop using that word illiterate, because that's out of your vocabulary from now on. I'm telling you that right now. Because by 5th grade, you smart. You still smart. You smart all the way through. You might not know some things, but you're not illiterate. So you could take that out of your vocabulary, chalk that off, so you don't be carrying that. You know what I'm saying? It's very important for you to understand that, bro. You're not illiterate. Illiterate people can't sit up there and speak like you did with the intelligence and everything that you just did. Besides, after 5th grade, you're pretty much solid. A lot of stuff takes place between the 1st and the 5th grade. And so I did want to share with you, and I want to thank you for sharing your story, because it puts everything in the right perspective.
Yes.
As we go on tonight. We want to make sure that we center around a real story, because sometimes we can get in these type meetings and settings and we really forget the human side of the people. Somebody like yourself. So your story is very important, because you got people that's watching this and they want to know answers. And it's so important for you. I'm so gracious that you're here, gracious that you were willing to share your story with us. And there's a couple of things that you said that I deal with on a regular basis, bro. And it's just a movement, how you just moved across to take care of your life, to see what's in you. And that thing, forgiveness, that's 100% part of the main thing, that you don't carry nobody else's baggage, man. So you're free. And I could see it, I could sense it, I could feel it in you. So you keep going on, man. Keep on keeping on, man. That's what I do. I'm a coach, man. When I see a player like you, I'm not talking about a player. I'm talking about a player, that like someone that's part of the team. You part of the group. And man, you got so much to give. I know you're a giving brother as well. I could tell that in your energy, man. So keep on giving, man. Keep giving your story. You took your mess and turned it into a message. You know, those tests that you've been through is your testimony. And somebody's lives are going to be changed. And you're going to be forever, forever grateful for helping other people with your story, man.